Hello everybody, I am Daniel Burrow, and welcome back to Nerdy News Book Reviews. Currently we're doing our Nerdy News series read-through of the Cosmere. The Cosmere, okay, you have to watch my last video to understand this, because this is the start of the series read-through. The Cosmere is this giant universe which connects a bunch of Brandon Sanderson's books, and if you watch my previous episode about the Cosmere, then you would understand this. If you have not, then, well, you're losing out and you should stop right there and watch my last video. Okay, time to get right into it. Today I will be reviewing White Sand. Yeah, pretty good. It is a graphic novel, and it was one of the first books that Brandon Sanderson wrote. Today we'll actually be reviewing Volume 1 in the White Sand series. Currently, there's only 2 of the planned trilogy of White Sand that is out. The first book was released June 28th, 2016, which was this one. And the second one was released February 20th, 2018, which was this one. Oops, the lighting's screwing it up a little, but who cares? I've read both of them and liked them quite a bit. Other than both of them end with stupid cliffhangers, like, I don't know how to explain myself. It was, I don't know. Brandon Sanderson just stopped at kind of a weird spot. Actually, I should be talking about Dynamite. Actually, at this point, I don't know whose fault it was. Whether it be Dynamite or Brandon Sanderson. Actually, then again, Dynamite's the publisher, but I'll get into that later. So, the third book is to be announced. I don't know when it's coming out. I don't know if, like, Brandon Sanderson totally hates it. He's not going to release another. Just kidding, I know he's going to release another one. But the thing is, because it's a graphic novel, I don't actually really know how graphic novels work, other than Brandon Sanderson said that it's not his fault if it's not released on time. And on time, he says around from 2019 to 2024. Yeah, it's a pretty big area of time. Bracket of time, I meant. Yeah. So basically, Brandon Sanderson co-wrote this with Rick Hoskin. Yeah, so basically Brandon Sanderson wrote this book. It was one of the first books he wrote, and it was like in novel form. And he wrote it, but then for some reason he didn't publish it in novel form, which I actually owned the novel form, but I had to like beg Brandon Sanderson and other people to get it, and because it's unpublished, I'd go through so much trouble. But hey, I got it, and I've read it, and you know, I thought it was better than the graphic novel version because I'm used to Brandon Sanderson's writing, and Rick Hoskin had to adapt it to a graphic novel format, so he had to have he couldn't make it like he couldn't make the main character think aloud because the only context that you see is literally what they're saying. So they had to like portray certain things because in the book the main character thinks a lot, and so you like see his thoughts. So yeah, never mind. You probably understand this. So personally, I like the novel better, but you know, I don't know. The publisher is Dynamite. Oh, and the artist dude is Julius Gopez. Yeah, so it's kind of strange. This is like one of the few graphic novels I've ever read. I'm not a huge fan of them, but this surprised me for a graphic novel. The Library of Congress's genre for this was fantasy, and I was like, wow, they actually hit it spot on for once. If you've not watched my post-season, which I don't even call it like season 1, I call that like, I don't know, post-season, no, post, not post, pre-season 1, before the awakening of Daniel's knowledge, I don't know. if you have not ever watched any of my videos, I'm usually hating on Library of Congress. But this one, they actually nailed it. They just left it to fantasy. I guess less is more in this case. Because most of the time they like put out all these really stupid genres that make no sense, like household moving fiction. What? Who reads a book about moving households? That makes no sense unless you're like attached to a house. You have to move and you have PTSD. And you're afraid that you're ever gonna move. You try and heal your soul by reading house moving fiction to see other characters who also conflict with the same problems. Then again, I'd probably be sad if I moved houses, but let's move on. Okay, where was I? Ah, ratings on Goodreads is 3.7 out of 5. I don't know, maybe the people on Goodreads are just like, I don't like graphic novels. They're like used to books. Then again, Goodreads contains audiobooks, graphic novels, novellas. It actually just contains a bunch of stuff. So, they probably aren't all haters towards graphic novels. I was actually one of the people who rated it on Goodreads because I have a Goodreads account. And by the way, if you're watching this, you should become my friend on Goodreads if you have a Goodreads account. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Goodreads. So 3.7 out of 5, that's a pretty, well, it's above average, which is 2.5. But, still pretty crummy, I guess. Nerdy News rating, together, also our rating system's out of 20 this time. And my friends and I agreed, who've read this book actually, that's 16 out of 20 stars. Nerdy news genre, just because I've read a lot of the Cosmere works, I had to say that it was sci-fi fantasy. Personally, this book is fantasy, but the Cosmere is sci-fi fantasy, and hopefully the third volume in this series is going to be sci-fi fantasy. I really hope it is. But, just my wishes, and I'm just a poor old sap just reading away. Yeah, never mind. The paperback on Amazon costs $13.38, but also is on sale. Hardcover costs $27.98. That's why I'd not buy the hardcover. Actually, I got this for my birth mom for Christmas. Yeah, her name's Ginger. Hardcover, yes, $27.98. As I said, yeah, super expensive. I actually bought the second book because you could only buy it in hardcover, and I bought it for that price. It was worth it. But, some people don't spend so much money on books, and I don't blame them. The Kindle is $11.70. I don't know. Paperback's not that much more unless you're like a big Kindle reader. You should definitely buy the paperback. The average reading time for our nerdy newscast was 1 day. Because, only a few people in my nerdy newscast actually read this book, which is kind of sad. But, yeah, they averaged 1 day because we're all pretty avid readers, and we're just like, you know what, it's a comic book. Let's just read it in a graphic novel. Comic books are short, graphic novels are long. Actually, graphic novels are like the novels in the illustrated works, while comic books are like novellas of the illustrated works. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Yeah, we all read it in 1 day because we're like, it's short. We don't have a whole lot to. Or maybe it was just like we weren't in a time crunch. I was actually sick at the time. I was like, oh, I feel like crap. You know what? I have this comic book. I'm just going to read it. I actually had influenza B when I read the first and the second book all in 1 day. I was like, I'm just going to power through it. And it was actually super good. But I would actually have to say that most people would take 1 to 3 days, depending on like if they're really interested, because some parts are terribly boring. Brandon Sanderson tends to have really cool parts and really boring parts, and then a lot in between. So, depends. If you read this book, it's kind of his writing style. And if you totally hate it, you should still read the rest of White Sand and get into Elantris, because Elantris is really where you see his writing. And he just keeps getting better, because, he's progressing as an author. It just keeps getting better all the way to Oathbringer, which just came out, which is amazing. Where was I? Ah, yes. time to read the back. I'm not the best out loud reader, so beware. Ooh, excuse me, I'm sorry, that was incredibly rude. On the planet Taldane, the legendary Sandmasters harness arcane powers to manipulate sand in spectacular ways. But when they are slaughtered in a sinister conspiracy, the weakest of their numbers, Kenton, believes himself to be the only survivor. With enemies closing in on all sides, Kenton forges an unlikely partnership with Chris, a mysterious Darksider who hides her own secrets. White Sands brings to life a crucial, unpublished part of Brandon Sanderson's sprawling Cosmere universe. The story has been adapted by Rick Hoskin, Mercy Thompson, don't know what that means, it was in parentheses, with art by Julia Scopez, and colors by Ross Campbell. Employing powerful imagery and Sanderson's celebrate approach to magical systems, White Sand is a spectacular new saga for lovers of fantasy and adventure. Yeah, I should have put adventure in my nerdy news genre because this book has a lot of adventure, almost more than fantasy. Because they travel, they meet a lot of strange beasts. They I don't know, it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's the back. If that sounds like trash, still read it because it's definitely worth it. You're gonna have to power through some parts. Also, it's very bloody. I guess I don't picture the books as bloody in my mind, which probably are more bloody in the book. But in comic book form, it shows some blood and gore. I was like, oh, because this one dude has a gun. He's shooting people at this one part. And I was like, oh shoot, oh shoot. Actually, that's kind of funny. Get it? Oh shoot. And it was I was like, oh. So yeah, if you do not like blood or gore, do not read this. Wait till it comes out in novel form. Okay, it was originally published in Arcanum Unbounded, which I will grab. Arcanum Unbounded, which is a collection of Cosmere shorts. And it also contains the Chris essays, which I will explain right now. The Chris essays, the main character is actually Chrysilla, and Chris is a world hopper, which I just spoiled one of my mini games that I'm going to do in this video. Chris is a world hopper. I'm just going to say that out front. And she wrote this book, or she wrote the essays. So when it goes over a star system, such as the Sellich system, when it goes over a system, it gives you a map of the star system. Sorry, it's coming out a little crummy. And then it gives you around 2 pages of info about the system. Like that. And then it gives you a few novels or novellas in the system. Well, originally, when Brandon Sanderson, he wrote one of his first books, and it was White Sand. Well, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to publish the first novel, the first chapter of the novel in this, just to test it out. It was the only unfinished work in this whole book. And he also published the first chapter of the graphic novel edition. And because, I had to beg and a bunch of people in Brandon Sanderson's cast, and I bugged them until he actually sent me the unpublished White Sands novel. Not the graphic novel, the novel, for free. So yeah, he sent me that. I read it. So much better than the graphic novel. I'm not saying to do that yourself in any sense, because I had to beg and bug, and I don't know. I feel so bad for Dragonsteel Corps, because I was just bugging them, and yeah. So yeah, the first chapter of that is in that book. I got the rest of it, which I cannot give to anyone. But, I got that from Brandon Sanderson himself. Yeah, I emailed Brandon Sanderson himself. And he was like, oh yeah, good job, continue writing. I was like, oh yeah, because I was telling him that he inspired me to write. And yeah, it was a pretty cool exchange. So yeah. And then he published the first chapter of the graphic novel edition. So yeah, I bought that. And that was before he released the graphic novel edition. Because, Dynamite only had one chapter done at the time. He's like, oh, that looks pretty great. I'm going to throw that in. So, yeah. Oh, what's next? Oh, yeah. The weird thing is, I don't know, while I was saying, like, Brandon Sanderson may totally change his mind about making a third book, is there's this really fishy art change. I don't know if a different company bought it, but here, this is like the original art. As you can see, it looks like, I don't know, kind of different. But then, in the second book, on chapter, let's see, what chapter was it? For literally the last chapter in the book, which was chapter 6. See, it goes from this art style to, actually, shoot, I screwed up. It goes from this art style to this art style. This art style is a lot smoother. I like the first one better, though. Maybe it was just because I read the first 2 books in that form until they changed it. Yeah, I don't know why they changed the art style, but I don't know. White Sands' future looks a little shady. I hope they release the third one. It's not even announced when it's going to be released. So yeah. Oh, I have to grab my notes quick. It's in the Taldane system, which is a star system in the Cosmere. I will show you the map right here, and I would recommend for sure reading the Chrysala essays, which is this stuff right here. I would recommend reading these at the very end of the Cosmere, because it has a ton of spoilers for the book. And then here's the cool star map. There's Taladane in the middle. As you can see, there's a white dwarf and a red giant. Yeah, that's a white dwarf right there, and that's a red giant down there. And because of the weird way it orbits, it affects the magic system, which is sand mastery, which, as it sounds, people can't master the sand, which just means manipulating it. I'm not going to spoil anything else because it's pretty awesome to read. Autonomy, which is literally only mentioned in the Chris essays. Autonomy is a shard that causes the magic system, and almost nothing's unknown about him or her. So yeah, we're going to have to find out the destiny of this autonomy shard. And yeah, in 1 week, I will be back with my nerdy news, not series overview, nerdy news book overview, and it's going to be of White Sand Volume 1. So you guys better read this in a week, because next week I'm going to be back with spoilers and being like, hey guys, how'd you like it? Also, I have one last thing. There are 3 world hoppers in this book. Let's see if you can find out who they are. I already spoiled one, which is Chrysala. You guys probably are not going to know the rest of them, because literally only one of them is like a main character. So Chrysala, for sure, you guys are going to have to pay attention to. Then there's Hoid, which is in every single Brandon Sanderson book that is in the Cosmere. So Hoid is in this. I've not yet found him. I don't know if I'm just stupid or unobservant, or if he's really well hidden, he's just in the background. You guys are probably going to have to reread this whole series to get to this book and find Hoid. I've not read the whole series yet, because I've not read Mistborn Era 2 and beyond. So yeah. Yeah. There's 3 world hoppers. I know all 3 of them, and I've spoiled 2 of them. The third one, you will only know he's a world hopper when you read The Way of Kings, because he shows up there and you're like, what? And how you know it's him is because of the description of him, and the description matches the dude. Yeah, it's a dude, not a girl. That's in the comic book. And, well, I also read the White Sand novelized form. So, you know, you have to pay attention. Please, anyone who watches this video, comment about something that they liked and something that they didn't like, something I should change, if they're gonna read this. Like, seriously, guys, comment. You guys kinda sucked last week. Only 7 people commented in my rules revision, and only 1 person commented in my Cosmere thing, which was my mom. So I just really want some feedback because I'm gonna try and make a YouTube channel and post this, and I want to like go pro by that time. And so yeah, really need some help, guys. So, hope you guys don't fail this week. Also, you guys did not come up with a good catchphrase like chow kapow, or whatever that Spanish phrase is. Chow kapow, whatever that Spanish phrase is, which means goodbye. Please like or leave a comment, and see you next week.